An unfortunate trend continues. Yet another tri-state restaurant closing its doors.
More Arctic cold temperatures still locked in the tri-state and Midwest, but I'm tracking big-time relief in that extended forecast coming up.
And two new furry friends making their debut in our nation's capital. Local 12 News Live at Noon starts now.
Against support for transgender students in the state. Soon, students will no longer be able to use bathrooms and locker rooms that match their gender identity. Republican Governor Mike DeWine signed the measure into law today. It requires people at all Ohio schools and universities, both public and private, to use the restroom that aligns with their gender assigned at birth. The ACLU of Ohio lobbied for a veto and condemns the legislation as a violation of the right of privacy of LGBTQ+ Ohioans. Conservative supporters call for the law a win for common sense. At least 11 states have adopted similar laws. Ohio's new bathroom legislation takes effect in 90 days. Well, let the Squid Games begin. The winner of Squid Games Season 1 is returning to try and end the mysterious survival game. In the new trailer that dropped on Tuesday, player 456 is in the arena declaring he's trying to put an end to the game. The third and final season will premiere in 2025. Never seen that show.
Me neither. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Maybe some holiday weekend viewing, possibly.
The only squid I know is Squidward on SpongeBob.
Squidward.
And I'll show you the latest on efforts to repair the Big Mac Bridge. Local 12 News Live at Noon starts now.
Hoof it on out of here. Today, the group evicting hundreds of local horse owners from county property explains its case to the commissioners. He had just stepped out of his broken down car. The coroner identifies a man who was killed on the stretch of local interstate.
And something that's only happened a couple of times this month is happening today. I'll explain why. It has to do with this 8-degree dip in temperatures and the full Weather Authority forecast.
And a 10-year-old dog is rescued after clinging to life on a sinking shopping cart. Local 12 News Live at Noon starts right now. Retailers say they are seeing an increase in online sales for emergency contraceptives. Wisp and Winks health products say sales have climbed nearly 1,000%. This comes after former President Donald Trump was elected last week. According to the CEO of Wisp, women are preparing for the possibility of emergency contraception restrictions.
Thank you very much, Eric. The final member of the Wagner family accused of the Pike County massacre returned to court today, less than a month after a judge sentenced two other family members. George Billy Wagner faced a judge in a pretrial hearing. His trial on hold over whether the judge can remove the death penalty and whether the trial should be moved out of Pike County. Both sides debated removing some of the charges from Wagner's case, as well as possible plea negotiations. Wagner's youngest son, Jake, got a life sentence with a chance at parole after 32 years, and Wagner's wife, Angela, got 30 years. A jury convicted his oldest son, George, on all charges, and he received life in prison with no chance for parole. The family is accused, of course, of killing 8 members of the Roden and Gilley families in April of 2016 in a child custody dispute. Our Local 12's James Pilcher will be back beginning on Local 12 News First at 4 with a complete recap of this, including how Wagner does not want this case to be decided just by a judge, but instead by a full jury. Also new at noon, 2 local businesses adding items to their menus. Tri-State favorites Skyline and Graeter's are putting out a new ice cream flavor called Skyline Spice. Graeter's says this limited flavor features Skyline signature spice mix and crunchy oyster crackers. It'll be sold at all Graeter's locations, participating Skyline restaurants at Midwest Kroger locations as well as online. Sales begin Monday the 27th, and Skyline invited local influencers to its downtown Cincinnati location for this announcement. Thank you very much, Paul. It may be the wave of the future, using a larger version of one of these to print new homes.
Now, instead of a crew of 4 to 6 guys to build a house, 2 guys are printing the home.
Tonight at 6, take a tour as we turn the spotlight on new technology that can save homeowners big bucks.
All right, Paul, thank you. One person is safe after an early morning fire in Westwood. The Cincinnati Fire Department says the fire broke out at a townhome on Anaconda Drive around 5:20. Now, one person inside the home was awakened by the fire and was able to get out. It took 65 firefighters 25 minutes to extinguish the fire. No one was injured. The fire estimated $200,000 in damage. There's no word on a possible cause yet. Now, new information on that massive manhunt for a killer in New York, along with better pictures of the suspect. The gunman who killed United Healthcare's CEO is still on the run. These are pictures from the hostel where he stayed. Police say he took a bus from Atlanta to New York before checking in using a fake ID. Video shows the gunman stopping at Starbucks moments before the shooting, then fleeing the scene on an e-bike into Central Park Wednesday morning. Brian Thompson was shot outside a Manhattan hotel before an investor conference. Experts say this killer is experienced with a gun.
Just take a look at his stance and how he had the gun pointed out. He knew what he was doing. The gun jams. He's able to deal with the malfunction. So it looks like he's very proficient with how to use a firearm.
Now, the words deny, defend, and depose were written on bullets from the shooting. These are similar to the so-called 3 Ds of insurance, which are delay, deny, defend. It's a phrase used by attorneys and opponents of the industry to describe tactics insurance companies use to avoid paying claims. Police found a phone and water bottle that may have been dropped by the suspect. They were able to get a fingerprint. However, it's smudged. Basketball icon Shaquille O'Neal is teaming up with Pepsi to launch a new holiday flavor. Shaq is front and center in an ad for Pepsi's new Zero Sugar Gingerbread. The holiday-themed drink is only around for a limited time, and you can try it for free. Visit Pepsi.com or visit Pepsi's TikTok page to sign up for a free can. The promotion runs through December 11th.
That was the woman who was shot in her own kitchen by a police officer standing just yards away. Massey's death by former officer Sean Grayson sparked protests across the U.S. The Department of Justice will look into the county sheriff's office as a whole. The DOJ requested information on recruitment, hiring, and training processes. The DOJ says the investigation will not interfere with the prosecution of Sean Grayson. Grayson is charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, and official misconduct. A hearing is scheduled for December the 2nd.
Giant cockroaches likely make your skin crawl, but what if they could help save your life after a disaster? Australian researchers are working to turn giant cyborg cockroaches, that sounds terrifying, like this into biohybrid robots that could potentially save lives after a disaster. The device sends out electrical pulses that lets the researchers control the insect's movements. Researchers believe the biohybrid robots could be sent to disaster sites that are too dangerous for human rescuers. They say the bugs could report the location of survivors and even deliver life-saving aid. Thanks so much for joining us for Local 12 News live at noon. Have a good rest of your day.
Well, the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra will have new leadership next year. President and CEO Jonathan Martin will retire on February 16th after a 7-year tenure. The CSO's Chief Operating Officer, Robert McGrath, will step in as acting president and CEO. Martin's leadership marked one of the most artistically dynamic and financially stable periods in the CSO's 130-year history. He also led the creation of the Andrew J. Brady Music Center and is spearheading a campaign to replace the Riverbend Music Center as well. McGrath is a 13-year CSO veteran. He will work with Martin over the next 3 months to ensure a smooth leadership transition. Well, an iconic brand is changing its name. We'll fill you in on the details just ahead on Local 12 News, live at noon. 30 years after being convicted of killing their parents, the Menendez brothers are set to appear in court. Lyle and Eric are serving life sentences for the 1989 murders. Back in October, the DA in Los Angeles requested a resentencing hearing for the brothers. The recommended sentence is life in prison with the possibility of parole. This comes after the brothers filed a petition citing paternal abuse and new evidence. The resentencing hearing is set for December 11th. There's one move, though, that's making headlines. Jackson State's Dylan Canaville made a layup but lost his shoe. Well, UK hurried back on transition, and Canaville ran down the court holding his sneaker. Kentucky's Brandon Garrison went in for a dunk, and Canaville, as you'll see here, throws the shoe at him. He misses. The dunk did not miss. Lunchables sales went down by 12% last quarter. Critics say that the meals just aren't healthy enough. Company owners say turning around the Lunchables brand is now a top priority.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Sydney Hawkins sitting in for Liz today. We start with a breaking news alert. The man accused of fatally shooting the CEO of United Healthcare pleaded not guilty today on the charges he faces at the state level. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione was formally charged last week by the Manhattan District Attorney with multiple counts, including murder and murder as an act of terrorism. Mangione was extradited from Pennsylvania last Thursday and was quickly rushed to New York City. He's being held in a Brooklyn federal jail alongside several other high-profile defendants, including Sean Diddy Combs and Sam Bankman-Fried. Mangione faces the possibility of the death penalty for his federal charges, while the maximum sentence for the state charges is life in prison without parole. Also breaking at this hour, the U.S. House Ethics Committee found evidence former Congressman Matt Gaetz paid women tens of thousands of dollars for sex or drugs, including a 17-year-old girl in 2017. That's according to a final draft of the panel's report on the Florida Republican. The Republican-led panel chose to take the rare step of releasing a report about a former member who resigned from Congress. Gaetz was President-elect Trump's first pick to be Attorney General, but he dropped out amid opposition from GOP senators and a news report of key details of this same ethics report.
Two new furry friends making their debut in the nation's capital. They're giant pandas. Bao Li and King Bao made their debut at Washington, D.C.'s Smithsonian National Zoo today. According to officials, this is the only place the public can see giant pandas free. Both pandas are 3 years old. The ceremony of their unveiling is available on the zoo's Facebook and YouTube pages. If you'd like to check out the pandas, go to local12.com, go to the Get It section, and click on the link. Happy birthday to Fiona. Cincinnati's favorite hippo is 8 years old today. Can you believe it? Fiona became an international sensation in 2017 after she was born 6 weeks premature.
Breaking news alerts and the Weather Authority forecast. This is Local 12 News.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Local 12 News Live at noon. I'm Jen Dalton. Liz will join us live in just a bit. We begin today with breaking news. Take a look behind me. A deadly explosion and fire this morning at a home in Claremont County. Local 12 News reporter Morella Porter is joining us live from Tate Township. Morella, what can you tell us?
Good afternoon, Jen. At this point, we now know that 2 people are confirmed to have died in this home explosion, and 1 person was transported to the hospital. Stepping out of the way, you can kind of see there are plenty of crews still out here working this scene.
A Rumpke driver is hospitalized after a crash on I-75. It happened near Ezard Charles Drive around 5 a.m. this morning. A Rumpke spokesperson says the truck was the only one involved. The driver was taken to a local hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The crash limited I-75 north and southbound to 1 lane each. It was a mess this morning, but all lanes are now reopened.
All right, on now to other news. The story that rocked the nation back in the headlines today. Susan Smith is now up for parole. You may recall in 1994, Smith murdered her 2 sons by strapping them in her car and letting them roll into a lake. 3-year-old Michael and 14-month-old Alex became known as America's children. When Smith spent 9 days claiming someone stole her car with the boys inside. Now she is serving a life sentence.
I have been dreading this year for almost 30 years. And then her trying to get away with it for 9 days, trying to lie and cover it up. I still think she should have got the death penalty.
The boy's father says it would be an injustice if she does get out of prison.
A little local consumer news for you now. A new survey from Bank of America shows how much generations are apparently planning on spending for Black Friday. On average, Gen Z is planning to spend $3,300. Millennials planning to spend $4,000. And this is also compared with Gen Z with $1,200 and baby boomers at $800, according to that survey.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us here for Local 12 News Live at noon. I'm Adam Clemens, stepping in for Liz today. A man is dead after a crash this morning. Emergency crews were called to State Line Road north of Hamilton, Scipio in Butler County just before 7. Deputies say that a Honda headed southbound went off the road and hit a tree. The driver, who was not wearing a seatbelt, was killed. Deputies haven't released his name. Drugs and alcohol are not believed to be factors in that crash.
Good afternoon, Annie. It was good news from the company building the replacement bridge girders. Now everything is coming together according to plan, and the first girder should actually be leaving Bowling Green, Ohio around the second week of January. Now Skyview 12 shows us the progress in the demolition of the damaged section of the bridge and where those new girders will be installed. Now, as you can see, the demolition is nearly complete. Now the focus is on the prep work for those girders and their installation. Now they'll be delivered one at a time in sequential order. So as they arrive, they can be placed directly into the repair. Now Stupp Bridge, that's the company making the girders, has been in business for nearly 170 years. I asked the company president about this process and how long this repair will last.
This repair will last for the duration of the bridge. I mean, the repair itself would last 100+ years. In effect, the remainder of the bridge would likely be out of service before the repair would be out of service. So there's no issue there. There's no concern there. It is routine for us to do this type of work.
Now, I'll be back at 4 with video of those girders and how they're made. Plus, I also asked ODOT about the schedule and if there's a chance for this bridge to open any sooner than the current projected date. You'll hear what a spokeswoman has to say about that timing. Annie, back to you.
President Joe Biden signs 50 bills into law. One of them makes the bald eagle the official bird of the United States. The bald eagle is seen on everything from the presidential seal to the $1 bill, but it wasn't the nation's official bird until now. Congress passed the bill unanimously. President Biden also approved a bill that's backed by hotel heiress Paris Hilton.
I'm so grateful to announce the introduction of the bipartisan Stop Institutional Child Abuse Act.
Hilton has spent 3 years lobbying lawmakers for more oversight of residential programs for troubled teens. She says she was abused when she was institutionalized as a teenager. The Stop Institutional Child Abuse Act creates a federal work group to oversee the health and the safety of minors in rehab and other facilities. Another new law takes away congressional pensions for any lawmakers convicted of public corruption crimes. It's a dreary day out today. Let's get a check on the forecast with our meteorologist, Tara Blake. Tara? To get rid of some old Christmas lights, listen up. Christmas lights are notoriously bad for garbage equipment, costing municipalities around the country thousands of dollars a year in damages. A nonprofit called The Hub is making it easy to recycle those decorations. You can drop off any unwanted bags, bows, or wrapping paper for free at The Hub. Some things are accepted for a small fee, such as batteries or lights, but there's a holiday special going on. You can drop off string lights free of charge until February 1st. All proceeds go toward helping the Hub process materials and prevent them from ending up in landfills.
Help change the perception of waste for people to not think, we've just gone through this giant season of consumption and excess. It's going to be January soon and people are going to be thinking about how new year, new habits, how can I do something good? This is a very easy way.
Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Hub is open on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and on Saturdays.
Several Frisch's restaurants have closed in recent weeks, raising concerns about the future of the beloved Big Boy tartar sauce.
When you hear about Cincinnati favorites, you hear about Graders, you hear about Skyline, La Rosa's, but somehow nobody mentions Frisch's tartar sauce. But now they definitely are. Now we're at the top of the list.
Talk about it at my house. Consumer reporter Cassie Arsenault takes you behind the scenes to meet the humble family behind the 75-year-old condiment and looks at the famous recipe's future tonight at 6.
Great Parks of Hamilton County wants your help redesigning one of its most popular parks, Sharon Woods. It's hosting a public forum this weekend to talk about what should be done with the harbor. The meeting is from noon to 2 tomorrow at the Sharon Center. The redesign includes the boathouse, trail and lake access, playgrounds, and concessions. Completion of design work and the start of construction on the new harbor planned for late next year. Well, just ahead, we have some great health news for you. A new study finding a certain diet may help lower your risk for some chronic illnesses. And the dangers of carbon monoxide and what you should try to do to prevent this risk. It's all coming up on Local 12 News Live at noon.
The 46-year-old company has $230 million in debt with nearly $12 million in cash on hand. It will receive $40 million in fresh financing after this filing. The retailer's 102 locations and website remain open for orders during this process. Now, once Chapter 11 is complete, the Container Store plans to emerge as a private company. And thousands of Party City workers are learning they will be out of a job heading into the new year. The retail chain has filed for bankruptcy for the second time in less than 2 years. In a statement, Party City says filing for bankruptcy would, quote, maximize value for its stakeholders and close in the most efficiency manner. Stores will close on February 28th, and the company says they will have a going out of business sale. The CEO pointed to the company's financial challenges as the reason for this collapse.
And also in health news today, many parts of the United States are dealing with wintry conditions, which can lead to problems when trying to stay warm. Leaders say they are now warning people about the risks of carbon monoxide poisoning from heaters. Fireplaces and generators also can pose this risk.
Carbon monoxide is an invisible killer. You cannot see it, you cannot smell it, and it can literally incapacitate you in moments and kill you.
About 100 people die every year from carbon monoxide poisoning. Make sure you have carbon monoxide alarms in your home, or you can install one on every level outside sleeping areas to at least notify you if there's a problem. You can also make sure to check those batteries regularly, which can make a difference as well. Well, e-commerce company eBay has a hot new item with a familiar app already installed. We're going to tell you about it coming up on Local 12 News Live at noon.
It is the first day of Kwanzaa. It's an African-American and Pan-African holiday celebrating family, community, and culture. Today's principle is umoja, which means unity in Swahili. Kwanzaa was first celebrated in 1966. Go find a celebration today. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon at Local 12 News Live at noon. Be sure to join us back here at 4. Have a good afternoon.
eBay sellers have a hot new commodity on the market, the phones with TikTok already installed. TikTok was removed from the app stores last weekend, you may recall. The app still exists for people who already have it downloaded, so listings range now from hundreds to thousands of dollars, even though TikTok is available now. Its future in the U.S. is still unclear. President Donald Trump signed an executive order delaying that federal ban for 75 days. And Costco shareholders have turned down an investor proposal, according to results. 98% of shareholders apparently voted against the proposal. The proposal involves policies such as diversity, equity, and inclusion. The vote came just days after President Donald Trump's executive order to end DEI in the federal government. And the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma have reached a $7 billion settlement deal with 15 states for fueling the opioid crisis. Now, that's according to New York's Attorney General. The settlement bans the Sackler family from selling opioids in the U.S. It also has the family or keeps the family from running Purdue Pharma. If approved in court, the funds would go towards supporting opioid addiction treatment, prevention, and recovery programs across the nation. Also in consumer news today, Fitbit has agreed to pay a more than $12 million civil penalty over its smartwatches. A Fitbit is designed to be worn on your wrist to track your overall health. The Consumer Product Safety Commission says a defect caused the smartwatches to overheat and burn more than 70 users. That product then discontinued back in 2020.